Hi everyone, I'm Arya. My name has become very popular thanks to the TV show Game of Thrones, but there's an interesting story behind how I got this name. Arya means air in Italian, so why was I named Air? Because I was born on an airplane, and that was the name chosen by the Italian pilot. You heard that right. I was born 16 years ago on board an airplane in the middle of a transatlantic flight. According to official records, the odds of being born on an airplane are 1 in 26 million. There have been nearly 50 babies born in the air so far. Of course, these were all unexpected births. My mom was on her way to visit my grandmother who had broken her hip, but for whatever reason, I decided to enter this world during her trip and became one of those 50 babies. Even though there were a lot of mishaps during my birth, I am so happy that I was born on an airplane because I have an interesting birth story, and also the airline gave me a golden ticket. Thanks to this, I can fly anywhere in the world for free. Now, let me tell you my story from the beginning. My parents were both mining engineers at the time. They worked at a gold mine in India. My mom was planning to give birth to me there. But when my grandmother, who lived in New York, fell down the stairs and broke her hip, my mom wanted to go right away because there was nobody else that could look after her. Airlines have different policies when it comes to pregnant passengers. The airline my mom was flying allowed women to fly until they were 38 weeks pregnant. Because my mom was 36 weeks or 8 months pregnant at the time, she had no trouble buying a ticket. My mom says I was already very active earlier that day. 5 hours after takeoff, she suddenly started getting labor pains. At first, she thought it was due to stress, but after a while, the contractions began. She called one of the flight attendants. She said, "I have bad news for you. I think I'm going to have a baby." They immediately moved my mom up to first class. The captain came over to her shortly after. He said, "We're currently flying close to the polar circle. We can't possibly do an emergency landing. Will you be okay for the next 4 hours?" My mom was getting worried and told him, "My contractions are getting closer together, which means labor is going to start in about 15 to 20 minutes. The chief flight attendant made an announcement saying, "We have a passenger who's about to go into labor. Is there a doctor on board?" When no one answered, she tried again, this time saying, "A passenger is having a baby in 15 minutes. Is there a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, or even a pharmacist? Anyone who's in healthcare?" One of the passengers said, "My daughter is in medical school. She's very scared, but I think there's a chance she may be able to help you." The girl was so nervous. She snapped at her mother, "Mom, I'm just in my 3rd year. I've never even seen anyone give birth. You probably know more about it than I do. You've at least done it yourself." But when the chief flight attendant said, "I understand, but you're the only person on this plane who knows anything about healthcare. Please help us," she had no choice but to say yes. They cleared the first class section to prepare for labor. As you know, first class seats can be turned into comfortable beds. Flight attendants converted that space into a small hospital room and laid my mom down. Then they brought hot water and towels, just like in the movies. They realized that the medical student had disappeared. After searching for a while, they found her hiding in the bathroom. She locked herself in there because she was so scared. Her mom went to the bathroom door and started begging her. They finally convinced her to come out. When she was finally brought to first class, she was crying. My mom had been pretty calm until then. When she saw the girl, she started crying too. The chief flight attendant saw that things were getting out of hand and decided to take control of the situation. First of all, she sent the girl back to her seat. Then she turned to my mom and said the magic word, "Push!" Once my mom heard that, she stopped crying and started pushing. And sure enough, shortly after she gave birth to me. All the passengers on the plane were waiting anxiously. The pilot's announcement broke the silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, we realize there's a stowaway on board because her name is not on the passenger list. In fact, this little passenger doesn't even have a name. With her mother's permission, I've named her Arya. It means air in my mother tongue. I want to extend a warm welcome to Arya, who was born in the air." Relieved by the pilot's announcements, the passengers broke into applause. The captain called my dad on his cell phone to give him the news and then put my mom on. Because there was no video calls back then, Dad was only able to listen to my crying. After landing, they took my mom and me straight to the hospital. The doctor examined us and said that there was nothing wrong with either of us. My dad came to New York the following week. When he went to deal with the paperwork, the official asked him about my place of birth. When Dad said, "Arya was born on a plane," she was surprised. She told him, "Unfortunately, in the air is not one of the options. The closest one is at sea. We can put that if you like." My dad had to say yes to that. So my passport says I was born at sea. I love showing it to people and saying, actually, I wasn't born at sea, but in the air, and telling them how it happened. That is my birth story. Now, let me tell you about my golden ticket. As I said earlier, I can fly anywhere in the world for free. About a month after I was born, the airline called my parents and invited them to their headquarters. The general manager explained that there are some superstitions in aviation, just like in seafaring. Apparently, it is a very good sign when a baby is born on a plane. He said they were going to rename the plane I was born on after my mother. Then he added that we will give Arya a golden ticket so she can travel on our planes for free for the rest of her life, which of course made my parents really happy. You might have heard before that babies born in the air fly everywhere for free, but that's not exactly true for every baby. Yes, there are lucky babies like me who get the golden ticket, but there's no set rule about it. If the airline wants to give them a golden ticket, they do. If they choose not to, no one asks them why they didn't. One more thing, some airlines that give out golden tickets announce it publicly and others don't. For example, our airline chose not to make an announcement. I know some of you might be jealous of me. You might be thinking, I wish my mom gave birth to me in the air. Just think about it. If I decided to go to Japan today, I could get on a plane tonight and be in Tokyo tomorrow. This really is an incredible opportunity. But of course, it's not as simple as that. Yes, the flight might be free, but I don't have enough money for other expenses like hotels and food. There's no point for me going to Tokyo. Also, because I can't travel alone, either my mom or dad needs to come with me, and of course they need to pay for their own plane tickets. This is why I haven't been able to use my golden ticket much so far. Now, I'm looking forward to turning 18. After finishing high school, I won't start college right away. First, I will go on a trip around the world for a year. I want to visit at least 50 countries. I'll be waitressing wherever I go to make money, so I'll be working and traveling at the same time. Besides, some days I'll be sleeping on the plane instead of paying for a hotel room. Let's say I'm in Paris from there. I'll get a ticket to Cuba. That's a 10-hour flight. I'll eat a good meal once I'm on the plane. Then I'm going to sleep there as if I'm in a hotel room. After a good night's sleep, I'll wake up in Havana. It sounds wild to treat the plane like a hotel, but I'll be able to do that thanks to my golden ticket. I love it. If you could give me some recommendations for my trip, which countries or cities should I visit? And please tell me why you recommended those places. I hope that by the time I start my trip, the pandemic will finally be over and I can travel safely. Hey guys, my name is Christy, and I'm a fan of the Sims 3 games. At some point, all things that I created in the game began to come true. Are you wondering how this happened? I'll tell you now. It all started from the day when I walked out of the cinema in the evening with my best friend Kate. We passed a shop that sold various amulets and talismans, and I decided to buy myself an amulet for good luck. As soon as the difficult tests were about to begin at school, Kate just laughed at me and said that such things do not work anyway. But then she doubted my amulet in action. But I'll talk about this a little later, because I need to say a few more words about my favorite game. Ever since I was a kid, I loved The Sims 3. I can hang out on it for days and nights, create entire dynasties, and command them. I think those who play it understand me perfectly. And then one day, for some reason, I wanted to create my own family in life, but only a better one. At first, I had just built a house that was an exact replica of our house. And then I got my parents a job that was roughly similar to the real one, but in reality, they did not receive a promotion. Then in game, it happened almost immediately. And you know what? Within a week, my parents informed me that their project was the best of all, and the boss gave them a huge bonus and also promoted them. I was very happy about this and sincerely congratulated my parents. But the pleasant surprise did not end there. The next day, they gave me the Persian kitten I've been dreaming about for so long. The day before, I had created one just like it in The Sims 3, and at that moment, an interesting thought occurred to me. At first, my parents were promoted, although they could not get a promotion for several years. Then they gave me a kitten that they didn't want to buy me for a long time. Have the events in the game really started to come true? This thought made my head spin because all my dreams in this case can come true. And it started when I bought myself a good luck amulet. Apparently, it still has some kind of magical power. I was quick to share my theory with Kate, but she didn't share my excitement, saying it was an accident. Her opinion did not offend me at all because my friend was always a skeptic. After talking to her, I sat down to play The Sims 3 again. The finances in the game allowed my virtual family to buy not only a brand new laptop, but also a cool console. The very next evening, returning from school, I saw these very purchases in reality in my room. I could hardly stand on my feet from shock and joy because all my dreams really began to come true. It was hard to believe since nothing like this had ever happened to me before. Even Kate was very surprised, and she agreed that this was most likely the effect of the amulet. Can you imagine? I bought my luck for just $10, but it seemed to me that if I began to misuse the power of the amulet, it would be discharged like a battery. And then because of this, only failures would pursue me everywhere. But I could not stop because I wanted to fulfill absolutely all my desires. For example, in the game, I took my whole family to the best restaurant that I had built myself in town. I deliberately made it look like a real one because outwardly, I really liked it. And on the weekend, Dad said we were going to that very restaurant. This finally blew my head off from joy. I even forgot how to breathe. My parents and I ate exotic dishes with great pleasure, and I thought about what else to do in The Sims so that it would be transferred into life. In fact, I had already bought everything I wanted, and nothing interesting had occurred to me yet. But when we got home, I came up with something. I always dreamed of visiting France because I thought this was a beautiful country and romantic. I sent my entire virtual family on a journey there, and exactly a week later, with tears of joy in our eyes, my mother said that during the holidays, my father was taking us to France. I almost fainted from the awesome news. This is my ultimate dream. Now there is definitely no doubt that my dear amulet was bringing me such good luck. However, everything soon changed. Do you remember? I said I shouldn't have misused my luck. So once in my game, there was a fire in the kitchen. My character completely forgot about the food on the stove. Fortunately, everyone in The Sims survived, but I got really scared because it was the first bad thing in the game. If now all the events in The Sims have begun to come true, then it means that there will soon be a fire in our kitchen. How can I prevent it? I didn't come up with any normal plan, so I decided to just not let anyone in the kitchen all day. I stood at the door and handed my parents the necessary food from the refrigerator. My mother asked me what it all meant, and I just said soon they would thank me for saving both the kitchen and their life. I must have looked like an idiot from the outside, and my mother clearly did not like my strange behavior. She said I was freaking around and pushing me away from the door, and went into the kitchen to cook dinner. I was restless and constantly checked on my mother, but everything was fine. She couldn't stand it any longer and asked me what had happened. I replied that I was very afraid of a fire and it was better for her not to use the stove in the near future. My mother just laughed at me and said that nothing like this would happen because she was watching everything. However, the very next day when I woke up, I felt an unbearable smell of burning. Oh no, it's a fire! I thought and immediately ran into the kitchen. It was completely smoky and there was a burnt cake in the oven. And rather, all that was left of it, it turns out that Dad wanted to do something nice for Mom's arrival, but the recipe posted on the internet misinterpreted the cooking time for the potato pie. My father wasn't even bothered by the smoke and the disgusting smell that hovered in our house. Well, what else can you expect from a person who is almost never cooked? I was really scared. The lucky amulet became my curse. After we put the kitchen in order, I immediately ran to the city lake and drowned it right there. Let it better die at the bottom and never bring any more trouble to anyone else. I thought bitterly that now my dreams would no longer come true, but my little wishes kept coming true. This time I saw in my room a new plaid shirt which I had just bought for my character in The Sims. This is strange because I no longer had the amulet, but luck still continued to haunt me. I didn't know what to think. What if I have a special version of The Sims 3 that has some kind of magic? Even Kate had already supported this theory because there was no other explanations for all this. However, everything turned out to be much more prosaic. When I got back home from school early, I saw my parents sitting at the laptop and hanging out in The Sims. I crept closer and noticed that they were playing with our family. I was so freaked out that I couldn't stand it and asked what they were doing. My parents looked like I caught them in some kind of crime. They tried to think of something, but then they gave up and told the truth. The fact is that thanks to this game, they knew all my wishes and thus could give me grand surprises. Previously, they could not afford it because their salary was small, but after the promotion, they decided to pamper me so that I would not need anything. Their words touched me so much that I hugged my parents and told them that they were the best. That's it. There was no mystery in this story. Although I was not even upset, I was very happy that my parents found out about my dreams in such an original way and did not ignore them, but tried to make them come true. Hey, my name's Ellie, and I have hypnosis techniques I practice with my teachers. Well, until recently. Now I'll tell you what happened. My grandma is a practicing psychotherapist, and sometimes she uses hypnosis in her work. It was always interesting for me to spy on my grandma, and I tried to remember what she was doing and how to do it. For a long time, I thought this process was just a game. But once, at a literature lesson, I got so bored, I decided to try to hypnotize our teacher. I got into her consciousness and repeated, "Let us go, let us go." And to my surprise, the teacher suddenly said, "Lesson's over. Goodbye." She looked very strange, but my classmates decided she felt ill, though I knew it was my hypnosis. It was a victory. I ran along the street and felt mighty. Of course, I didn't tell my grandma. I knew she would be very angry with me if she found out about it. But I didn't want to be scolded, so I was happy in my mind that I could control my teacher. My life has changed a lot since that day. I started to practice hypnosis with my teachers every day. First, there were some little things to finish the class 5 minutes earlier, or to convince my math teacher to not call me to go to the blackboard. But I liked hypnosis more and more, so I started to use it for my own sake. I have always had problems with biology. I hate all the pistols and statements. Plus, our biology teacher just hates me. She often mocked me, so I decided to take revenge on her step by step, day after day. I hypnotized her during the lessons. I told her I was the best student, and can you imagine? She believed it. I completely stopped preparing for her lessons, and she praised me day after day. My classmates simply went crazy with envy, but none of them could understand my secret, and I myself wasn't ready to reveal it. It got to the point that our teachers decided to send me to the annual school biology conference instead of our resident nerd. I lied about being sick so I wouldn't have to go there. It seemed to me very funny to try to trick the whole school. The best student who starts to get sick as soon as it comes to competitions and conferences every time. With hypnosis, I made teachers give me only aces, and soon I became one of the most popular girls in our school. The teachers simply adored me and thought I was a genius. Until one day when I got myself into a mess. The thing is, I got all my A's and praise from teachers only with hypnosis. I completely stopped studying and doing homework. I didn't need to. I already got the good grades I wanted. So almost one whole school year passed, and then one day, the reckoning came. It was a foreign language class. As usual, I was bored, so I hypnotized the teacher. When the school principal came to our lesson, he said people from television called him, and right now the smartest student of our school should go there and take part of our country's most popular quiz show. I just adore this show. The people who take part in it are real geniuses. And then he said it was me that should go to the show. My heart fell to the floor. No, I can't, I said. Of course you can, the principal answered. You have the best academic performance at school. I'm sure you can win, and we will all be proud of you. I just panicked. I tried to lie about my teeth hurting and then that I had a stomach ache, but no one listened to me. I would be accompanied by 2 teachers, so the principal sent us to the studio where the program took place. There were lots of viewers and the channel operators and a lot of cameras, and they were all directed at me. I didn't know what to do. First, the host talked about my outstanding performance, and then she started to ask questions from last year's school program. At first, they were very easy, but I couldn't even answer them. Then the questions became more and more difficult, and of course, I couldn't cope with them either. For the whole year, I hadn't opened a book at all. It was just awful. I blushed. I couldn't answer a single question. The audience was buzzing. The host and my teachers didn't understand what was happening. I wanted to disappear. It's easy to hypnotize a teacher sitting in front of you, but it is simply impossible to hypnotize a multi-million army of viewers sitting in front of the TV. It was a complete failure, but that wasn't the end of the story. The next day when I got back to school, the principal called me. He started to ask me why the smartest girl in school couldn't answer even the easiest questions. He asked me something from the school curriculum, but I only looked at him without saying a word. I tried to hypnotize him, but either because I was so nervous or because the hypnosis didn't work, I couldn't do anything. The principal was just furious. He didn't understand how it could be possible, and in the end, I had to confess to everything. How ashamed I was. So he called my parents to school, and all my year-long cheating was revealed. My grandma was the most angry. She didn't understand how a kid could master hypnosis better than her. Fortunately, the principal was kind to me, and he didn't expel me, but I did have to repeat the the year. It was very humiliating. I turned out to be the oldest in my new class, and my friends from my last class now make fun of me all the time and call me a repeater. But it was a good lesson for me. I don't even want to think about hypnosis anymore. But our principal no longer trusts me, so he checks my knowledge in all subjects personally every week. And so far, I'm a student without any hypnosis.